I just made a massive mistake on the TaskRabbit app. Guys, I went from receiving 5, sometimes 6 requests to work every single week to receiving 0 for the last 2 weeks. It has been dead quiet, and all because I made this one mistake. So I want to go into detail about this mistake and make sure that it is something that you guys do not make, because it's something that you can avoid as soon as you start setting up your Tasker profile on the app. So for those of you that are new to the channel, I recently put out a video about the TaskRabbit app. I've been using it quite a bit for supplemental income, primarily because it lets me set my own rates, which I cannot do on other food delivery apps. While a lot of these food delivery apps are cutting rates, paying their gig workers less, on TaskRabbit I can set my own rate. But there is one big mistake that you have to watch out for when you're setting your rate and when you're setting your tasks on this app. In the future, I'm going to do a video about everything you need to know when you're getting started with TaskRabbit, so make sure to check back in for that. But if you are just getting started, at least avoid this big mistake so that your business does not dry up completely on the app. So let's just dive into what this mistake is. I don't want to waste any of your guys' time. And if we're here in the app and we go to My Business, you can see the different skills that I've set, and I've set 12. I've actually been thinning this out a little bit. I had more than 12 skills initially. My thought process was that I wanted to list as much as possible, get as many different requests coming in as possible, and that way I would be able to do more work on the app and to kind of pick and choose the best offers for work so that I could generate the most income with my business. This was the completely wrong approach to take. Let me explain why. In the TaskRabbit app, you have something called an acceptance rate. It's something familiar to you if you've worked in the gig economy before, because just about every app is going to have that acceptance rate. And it is very important as a tasker. If your acceptance rate falls below 90%, you start getting pushed down in the search results. So if someone is using the TaskRabbit app to try and find a worker, a tasker to help them on a project, they're less likely to see your name pop up. As you can see here in the app, I have 6 5-star reviews. My rating is perfect. My profile is really buttoned up. I talk a little bit about myself. I have a profile picture. I have these good reviews, and I have all of these different tasks. So you'd think that I'd be receiving a ton of different work. But because my acceptance rate has fallen below 90%, which is something that the TaskRabbit app finds very important. Essentially, they do not want to refer you to new clients if you're not likely to accept, because that makes the app, the UI of the app, the user interface from the customer perspective, a little bit worse for them. If customers have to request someone, they get canceled on, they have to keep requesting through the app. It makes it less likely that that customer is going to stick around and continue to use the TaskRabbit app. And so for me, there was the one big mistake when I made setting up my profile, advertising 12 plus different skills. A lot of these skills I really have no real interest in. I don't have a ton of expertise in. And so I was getting requests coming through. A lot of these requests were for moving. I put moving on here before because I do have moving experience on other apps, but I put it on there without having a truck, without having real moving equipment, and honestly not wanting to do a lot of moving work, because a lot of requests that come through the app are asking me to move one very large item down a flight of stairs. They want me to drive 30 minutes to get there. It's only a 30-minute task, but the toll on my body is going to be massive. So the payout's not that big. I'm risking injuring myself, and I have to drive very far to get there. And I declined probably 4 or 5 of these tasks, and it knocked my acceptance rate down tremendously. So here's my big piece of advice. Stick to exactly what you know and only list that on the app. Make sure to list a high enough price that is worth your time anywhere within your selected area that you're willing to drive to. So for me, it's about a 10-20 mile radius around my apartment. And I have these tasks that in the past I had not been accepting. So I should have delisted them entirely. You don't really have the luxury of filtering out bad offers when they come in on this app, because if you let that acceptance rate dip too low, currently mine's at 60%, all of a sudden you are not going to show up in search results at all. And if I had to do this again, I would completely reshape my skills. I would only offer 2 skills. That would be the yard work, where, as you know from my previous video, is what brought in the most work for me. I have a ton of recurring clients that are now outside of the app that are paying me for that yard work, and I'm setting my rate at $28 an hour. Now, I would also keep on their assembly of IKEA furniture because the TaskRabbit app is owned by IKEA. It was purchased a few years ago, so you are going to get quite a few hits through this. It's not all that hard. You definitely can get in a rhythm with setting up IKEA furniture. And while it can be frustrating, it's not too demanding on your body, but you're pretty much guaranteed to be there at least an hour or two, so that drive is going to be worth your time. These are the two big tasks. Anything else that you're not excited about, that you haven't done previously, and that you can't command a high rate for, just leave off of there. And please do not set your rates too low, because if you set your rate below what you're willing to work for, you're going to get offers, you're going to be hired onto tasks that you don't want to do, and that is going to knock down your acceptance rate. And one big other pro tip on here that you can definitely use is, I would say, keep recurring customers within the app for as long as possible. Personally, I made the mistake of pulling some of them outside of the app. I thought this was good because I could charge a little bit more for those customers instead of going through the TaskRabbit app. But TaskRabbit's only taking 15%, and they're still paying you out that rate that you set. They're just charging that extra 15% on top of the rate to that customer. So the customer might ask you to work outside of the app because they prefer not to pay that extra 15% charge. But at the end of the day, unless you adjust that rate with the customer, you're getting paid out the same once you stop working within the app. And here's the other big thing. That recurring task is going to boost your acceptance rate. So if you have the same customer that you like working with and they are willing to rehire you through the TaskRabbit app, you're going to be boosting your acceptance rate each and every time that comes through, because you know guaranteed that you can accept that request. You've already worked with them, you're familiar, you know what it's going to be, and that's boosting your metrics for future gigs to come in. You want to wait till you've really padded those metrics, and even then, it doesn't really even make sense to go outside of the app. This is something that could get you deactivated. It's a risk that I took that I probably should not have taken, and I would caution against it for that big reason right there. If you guys have any questions about how to use the app, make sure to leave them down below. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for future gig economy videos.